Hello, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're making coconut macaroons, which are kind of a continuation of what we did last week, because I mentioned in the kind of taste test portion that the crustless coconut pie tasted an awful lot like something that my mom made for me when I was a kid, and it was coconut macaroons. Except for in the video, I'm pretty sure I pronounced it macarons, which are the kind of little like sandwich looking things. Those use almond flour versus this uses coconut, but they're still pretty similar. And ironically, those are actually called French macaroons. So that's just another little layer of that fun fact, where very similar recipe, similar spelling, but then even goes a step further, being like the same name, just French macaroon versus coconut macaroon. But this recipe is also similar to what we did last week, except for this is going to be kind of like little individual dollops of the thing instead of a big pie dish. And I'm sure you noticed we have the stand mixer out because we have to make some meringue and then kind of fold that into everything. So it's not quite dump everything into the bowl like we did last week. It's dump almost everything into the bowl, make some meringue, and then fold that into the bowl. So, you know, we're leveling up in terms of complexity, but I think we can handle it. So even though I've kind of alluded to all this information already, why don't we run through the ingredients and then we'll get into cooking. Sweetened coconut, salt, vanilla, sweetened condensed milk, and then 2 eggs, but we only need the egg white. I'll show you how to kind of remove the egg yolks in a little bit. And these also need to be at room temperature. To kind of start off in the cooking process, I've gone back and forth a little bit on like, do you make the meringue first or do you kind of make the base first? It probably doesn't really matter, but just in terms of flow of the video, I think I'm going to make the base first and then we're going to try the meringue, just so that if it has issues or takes a long time, I can kind of pause things, walk away for a little bit, come back. Because meringue does take a couple minutes to kind of whip up, because we're going for, I don't think it's stiff peaks, I think it's soft peaks. I'll have to look at the recipe here in a second. Right now, we want to mix together all of the ingredients. So I'm going to kind of move the eggs out of the way because we don't need that at this moment. But we have the sweetened condensed milk, so I'm just going to kind of pour that in. And now the salt, just a little bit. And the vanilla, loose enough to cap this week. Can't believe I struggled with it last week. All right, just mix this all up. And I'm using a spatula. Oh, I guess this would be a reason why doing the meringue first might be a good idea, because then the spatula doesn't have all this junk on it. I can rinse it off. All right, I think that might be good enough. So we're going to set you over there. So getting the egg yolks out, very simple. I like to have a container with the eggs cracked into it, and then another container where the egg yolks will end up. So you want to take the egg yolks out of here, put them in there, leaving the egg whites behind. Now you have to be careful because you don't want to break the egg yolks, because I'm pretty sure egg yolks in the egg white will not meringue. I don't know if that's a verb, but like it won't become meringue. Because I think the fat in there breaks down like the air bubbles and whatnot. I could be wrong on that, but it sounds right. So I like to use my hand. Other people don't want to put their hand in eggs, so they use like other things, like there's like the kind of plastic bottle method, but I don't use plastic bottles, so I can't do that. So you can also do like the pass back and forth, but that I feel like you're gonna break the yolk 9 times out of 10. It's not necessarily a correct stat, but that's how I feel. It's kind of like a claw method. So you kind of take your hand and you just gently get it around, and then you use in between your fingers to let the egg white kind of gloop out. Whoops. Or sometimes you just drop it. I was slightly worried that was gonna break there. Come on. Oh, well, Lovely. So, okay, well, I guess tomorrow we're having a lot of scrambled eggs. So I have 2 new eggs, which I realize the recipe calls for them to be at room temperature. So we now need to think creative thoughts on how to get these to room temperature as quick as possible. So I'm thinking armpits. Hold on. We're gonna Google, can you make meringue out of cold egg whites? Okay, so this says yes, it just will take a lot longer. So I'm guessing it's just gonna take the amount of time to warm up from probably the friction from this. It does say if you're making buttercream that it's vital, but we're not making buttercream, so hopefully this is fine. Take 2, let's try this again. Okay, so usually one-handed works fine, but these seems to be extra tough, and so doing the transfer back and forth seems to be the better move to get that stuff to separate, except for it still does not want to. There we go. There we go. All right, now we separated it. Took 4 eggs instead of 2, but I think that's because I got a little eager, was trying to show off. So slow and steady wins the race. Take your time, and don't drop the egg, because I think that kind of messed with the membrane of it. So I'm going to wash my hands and give the egg whites a little bit more time to come to room temperature, and then we're going to throw them in the stand mixer and make some meringue. Okay, so I have my filming set up here. We're going to dump in the egg whites, and then you will cut to footage of that, or maybe I will have superimposed that over this. Okay, so that's not making contact like at all. Just dirty up all of my bowls. Well, the hand mixer is vastly superior to the stand mixer when it comes to making meringue in small quantities. I guess, like, I don't know what the threshold is, but that was like almost instantaneous. Like, the footage that I'm going to cut to of me making it, I was kind of in the zone and forgot that I wasn't pointing a camera at what I'm doing. I had this camera, and by the time I got over there, it was already like forming within like 30 seconds. So this like $20 hand mixer at full blast, there was a point where it cut out for a second and I thought I broke my hand mixer. So I just kind of took it down a notch. So not quite at full blast. Did it real quick. Don't ever be like, oh, I don't have a fancy KitchenAid stand mixer, I can't do cool things. Little Hamilton Beach coming in clutch. We're just gonna slowly have more and more of a mess behind me. Now, we want to gently fold in the meringue, which I feel like this is very heavy and this is very light. And I feel like it's just gonna get crushed. Fold it together. I feel like I'm just, how do I know when it's mixed? When is it mixed? Carefully fold egg whites into the coconut mixture. That's not helpful. Okay, well, I guess we just keep doing it until it's not there anymore. Okay. It is folded in. I don't want to overdo it, so we're gonna call it there. Okay, we want a baking sheet, line it with parchment paper, and then we're going to drop the batter from how high? Are we gonna try and beat the record again and go out of frame? Drop the batter onto the sheet using a 1 3/4 diameter ice cream scoop or 2 teaspoons. Like 2 teaspoons like claw style, or like something that is 2 teaspoons in volume. We're just gonna use 1 big spoon and do that. Okay, so we have the baking sheet, we have a big spoon. So I think what we want to do is get a scoop and then drop it? That doesn't seem correct. All right, I'm finding that you kind of want to form it up so you kind of press down a little bit when you're scooping. Because if it's too loose, it's just going to fall apart. And then I guess you want it to fall as a unit. That is way smaller than the rest of these. I'm assuming out of one of these 9, I did it correctly. None of them really felt correct. I was trying to remember how my mom did it years ago. Nothing was really popping back into my head, but we're now going to pop these in the oven at 325 for 25 to 30 minutes. You're trying to go for like a golden brown look to them, and then obviously let them cool, and then we will do the taste test. Here we have them. They got a little like melty and sad looking. I think the meringue kind of seeped out and then solidified kind of in like a little puddle around it. So my assumption is that I overdid the folding. Looking back, I might have overdone the meringue like in like the mixing, so I probably need to do a little bit less. But I'm not sure. Maybe I need to go find a video of somebody else making these and kind of see how all these processes work together. Because it seems simple, but I think that step is a lot more kind of intricate than it kind of seems on a surface level. Because clearly, I think that is supposed to kind of give an airiness and fluffiness throughout. Versus what I think is going to probably happen to mine is it all just kind of seeped down and then leaked out. But I mean, they still look golden brown, they smell delicious, so we're gonna give them a taste, see how that goes, and hopefully this little mix up is not the end of the world, because I have quite a few of them that I'm gonna have to work my way through. But all right, let's give it a taste and see how it is. All right, so if you like coconut, you're gonna like this. If you don't like coconut, I mean, I think you probably predicted this, but you're not gonna like it. Very strong coconut flavor. The bit that kind of gooped out is, it's not bad, but it definitely kind of is a different texture that I don't think super plays with the rest of it. It just kind of adds a level of sticky chew versus the coconut is kind of like a more like dry chew. I don't know how to describe this. It's still not bad. Like I like it. I'm gonna easily be able to eat all this, but it definitely isn't kind of what I remember from when my mom made it as a kid. I don't know if she used sweetened condensed milk. So I wonder if some of that is also kind of like running down. So I don't know if it's a level of the sweetened condensed milk just kind of does this and I am not used to that, or if it's because I did something wrong with the meringue. But overall, still good. I feel like you should try it. Like if you haven't made anything with meringue, this is probably like a good little like intro, because it's fairly low stakes. And also I would recommend using a hand mixer, because the stand mixer doesn't work. Hand mixer, so quick. That's my big takeaway from this, is that I'm gonna be using a hand mixer to make meringue most of the time in the future. Because that just blew me away. Like the fact that that happened and it was so quick, I was just like, what? Like I'm still a little bit speechless by it. But yeah, so overall, tasty, delicious. I actually sent a picture to my mom while I was letting these cool, and she said that she was going to make some today, but decided not to, but she might make some tomorrow. Because obviously I talked about I'm going to be making this a little bit in advance. I should have asked her questions of like how she did it back in the day, but I did not. Hopefully you give it a go. It's tasty, and let me know if you do, and you know, tips, tricks, anything that you learned along the way to help me improve when I make it in the future as well. Because you know, little nice positive feedback. I showed you some pitfalls and little tricks, and hopefully you can kind of tell me some things that you learned, and then together we'll become better. And on that note, bye mom, still not dead. See ya.